Hello and welcome into the KE Report. Shad and Corey here as your host, and today we're getting an update on AbraSilver Resource Corp. AbraSilver is traded on the TSX under the ticker ABRA and on the OTCQX under the ticker ABBRF. And we are joined today with the president and CEO of AbraSilver, John Miniotis. And John, always great to have you on the show. We chatted back at the tail end of September, but since then you've had a couple key news updates that we want to dive into at the project. We'll get into exploration, financings, Argentina, and of course all the catalyst on tap. But I think we should start it off with the news that you put out to the marketplace on the 28th of October. Now, this is at your Diablillos project. You've continued drilling in your Phase 5 drill program at Oculto East. And this is more of a gold target area compared to some of the other parts of the project that are more silver forward. And you put out a number of good holes here, but the headline hole, 8.5 meters at 13.81 grams per ton gold. Give us a sense of not just the headline hole, but some of these other holes, what you're learning here at Oculto East.
Sounds great. So thanks, guys, as always, for having me back on. As you say, I mean, certainly lots and lots to talk about. We've had a very busy October here. But yeah, in terms of the exploration, the latest exploration results for us just continue to deliver, I'd say, exactly what we had hoped for. So it's continue to encounter broad, continuous intervals of oxide gold mineralization. And importantly, this keeps expanding the resource footprint. So the pit shell, the conceptual pit shell here keeps moving further and further towards the east. And so, yeah, I think the latest press release, we announced another 5 step-out holes here. Every one of them hit strong gold mineralization, again, extending beyond the pit limits. I think the headline intercept, of course, was absolutely exceptional. So we hit 8.5 meters, grading over 13 grams per ton of gold in oxides. So clearly a phenomenal intercept there. I guess, yeah, to put that in perspective, our overall cutoff grade here on the gold side is about 0.4 grams per ton. And so anything above that is obviously economic. And I'd say typical rule of thumb, look, if you're hitting mineralization, that's like 2 times your cutoff grade. So for us, it'd be like 0.8 grams per ton. That'd be considered very good mineralization, obviously highly economic. If you're hitting 3 times cutoff grade, so 1.2 grams, I mean, that's excellent material, of course, extremely highly economic. But for us, I mean, yeah, hitting this now 13 grams per ton of gold is something like 30 times above our cutoff grade. I mean, it's off the chart. So, of course, we're not seeing grades like that in every hole. I mean, that's quite rare. But yeah, having these exceptionally high grade gold zones, I think will continue to meaningfully enhance the overall economics here. And then when you look across sort of the other holes here that we announced, yeah, we're consistently getting between zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.8 grams per ton over good, broad, thick intercepts. So yeah, no, we're very excited. Look, we keep hitting gold here. The deposit keeps growing out towards the east. And so, yeah, I think a lot more news flow to come on that as we continue to drill. And obviously, we're very happy with the results so far.
So, John, regarding that best hole, that headline hole, figure 2, shows exactly where it is in terms of the eastern step out and where that proposed pit shell is from the most recent resource from earlier this year. And we can also see how far it steps out from that hole 24 from this year's program, which was also a very good result. What other drilling is coming to the east here, all within this year's program then?
Yeah, we've drilled, I'd say, at least another 10 holes or so around Oculto East. And like you say, if you look at the section there, so you could see where this new hole 77, is located. It's clearly beneath the conceptual pit shell out to the east. So again, we'll continue to push back that pit shell again with making sure that we incorporate all the gold mineralization here. And like you said, this is about, between 50 to 100 meters further to the east than that very high grade hole that we announced back in May. That was hole 24. So this is even further to the east. Hole 24 was essentially right on the edge of the proposed pit shell. Now, of course, we're going to continue to push that so the pit continues to grow. And yeah, lots of drilling there. So we've had, probably another 10 holes or so, I would say, that are still at the lab that we're waiting for just from Oculto East in and around sort of this area here. And then, as we mentioned in the press release as well, pretty exciting time for us because right now we're drilling a very deep hole at Oculto East, actually looking for the first time to encounter the deeper porphyry mineralization at Oculto East. And so, as you guys know, I mean, we've been focused predominantly on the oxide mineralization here for the last several years. Obviously, that's come together and that's going to be reflected in the DFS and then even beyond that in future resource updates. But now we're taking sort of a swing for the fences here, drilling a kilometer deep hole at Oculto East, looking for a big porphyry target. And as well, I think we've now completed maybe some of those deeper holes that we're drilling 4 kilometers away at the Cerro Viejo target as well. And so, yeah, a lot of news flow coming out, not only from Oculto East and additional oxide mineralization, but hopefully some exciting news could be on the horizon from the sulfide intercepts as well later on this year.
Yeah, John, I think a lot of investors following along excited about these deeper holes, 1,000 meters deep, to test the potential for the porphyry, which there's a porphyry underneath Oculto already that's the source of a lot of this mineralization. But some of these other targets, pretty exciting, like Cerro Viejo, just to see what could be underlying at depth. There could be a beast down there, and I'm sure that would get your partner, Ken Ross, pretty excited as well. I guess just another thought for people that think they know the Oculto deposit and they think they know Diablillos. So much has changed over the last, let's say, 2 to 3 years with the addition of JAC and with pushing back the pit wall at Oculto and going east. Maybe just remind people how much this project has changed and that it's still growing. And so you don't even know where the limits are yet.
Yeah, very, very important point. So we announced our updated pre-feasibility study less than a year ago. So that was done in December of 2024. And at that time, the resource was roughly 150 million ounces of silver and 1.4 million ounces of gold. So it was roughly 250 million ounces silver equivalent. Today, based on the resource we announced back in July, that figure has grown from 250 million ounces silver equivalent to 350 million ounces of silver equivalent. So we've added over 50 million ounces of silver. We've added over 300,000 ounces of gold. And that was from a cutoff earlier this year. Obviously, we've had, again, some great success, especially on the gold side of things. So we're going to be looking to update the resource once again later on next year. So the current resource, 350 million ounces silver equivalent, that's going to be the basis of our feasibility study. We obviously are working towards that. We're going to announce a feasibility study, but we know the resource has obviously significant upside potential even above that. The resource keeps growing and it's growing in a very rapid fashion. So from the pre-fees that we announced last year, the resource had already grown by 35% or so, and it continues to grow again. So I could see another step change here in the resource next year. Hopefully we'll be well above 400 million ounces silver equivalent next year as part of the next resource. So yeah, this is a large deposit. All of that's in oxides. And so we've only been focused on oxides. We know there's sulfides, like you said, underneath. We've hit, significant thicknesses and good grades of gold and copper in the sulfides beneath Oculto East. We're now testing to actually encounter the porphyry, which is the heat source of that mineralization. And so, yeah, it could be exciting. I mean, the oxide deposit could theoretically just be the starter pit here. It could be sort of the smaller deposit, certainly. And so, yeah, it'll be very, very exciting to see what lies beneath this. We're looking forward to some of the deeper holes here and then some additional ongoing drilling, hopefully next year, to further test out the sulfide potential.
So, John, on top of all this potential expansion that you're drilling for, there any portion of the resource or certain areas that you need to go back into that let's say, are higher grade areas where maybe a potential mine would start that you need to further infill and de-risk those areas within the current resource?
No, we haven't really focused. I mean, phase five hasn't really focused too much on infill drilling because again, as we've been drilling out Jack and Oculto throughout the years, we've always spaced the holes pretty close apart. So like within 25-meter sort of intercepts away from each other. So those are already in the measured and indicated category. And when you look at our inferred resource, it's a negligible amount. So we're not worried about converting any inferred into the measured and indicated. I think I think as we were drilling these deposits, we were stepping them out systematically, so we wouldn't have to go back and do a big infill campaign. And so right now, yeah, phase five is entirely focused on step out. I would say growing Oculto out to the east. And obviously some of the other targets as well that we're looking to drill. The Sombra, we're looking to grow that. Potentially Phantasma as well. There's still upside at Jack. So within the oxides, there's still upside. And so that's really the focus. And then, as I mentioned, obviously some of these step out holes as well, focus on the deeper sulfide potential.
Yeah, and we haven't even spent a lot of time on Sombra lately because it's still earlier days, but Dave, your chief geologist, still has the theory that it's possible that connects up to Oculto East. So if all that connects, it'll just keep growing. And like you say, Jack's still open, Phantasma's still open. So lots of targets to still grow the oxide. And if you have a sulfide resource that does develop underneath it, this could turn into a generational asset. But you're geared up for a really big year here, John. You've got a lot of key catalysts coming up in 2026. The definitive feasibility study will be out, as you say, once the phase five drilling is all completed. That'll roll into a resource update. But the question is, are you funded for all this work? And you just did a big capital raise earlier in the month, 43.4 million. And this really cashes up the company. You did it at a good time in the market, at a good metals price, at a good sentiment environment. Talk to us about how that capital and the other capital you already had in the treasury gears you up for the big year you have in store.
Yeah, you're right. And look, I think, yeah, as you know, I mean, we've been chatting now for several years now, so you guys have been following the progress of the company. But I think from my perspective, it's absolutely safe to say right now, without question, I mean, this is certainly by far, I'd say, the most exciting time in our company's history. So really feel like everything is really coming together here. We're in the strongest position we've ever been in as a company, whether it's technically, financially, strategically. Again, some of these upcoming exploration results we're quite looking forward to as well. And so, yeah, over the next few months ahead, even over the next 6 months, it's really, truly transformational for us. And so, yeah, as we look on the corporate side, as you mentioned, we successfully completed a financing there. Now, with that cash on our balance sheet, we have over $75 million Canadian in the bank as of today. And so, yeah, that financing, was an opportunity that we came across. It was less than 5% dilution. So overall, yeah, I mean, we raised close to $45 million, but we issued less than 5% of our shares outstanding. And so we think, look, it was a great opportunity, still lots and lots of upside. As you know, the investors that participate in that financing, we think are going to do extremely well here over the coming months as we deliver on all of these catalysts. So we think there's still lots of upside potential. But yeah, we think it was a great opportunity just to make sure that we're fully financed here. There's a lot of work to be done. Obviously, next year is a transitional year. Instead of being an explorer, we're really rapidly moving towards a development phase here, looking to make a full construction decision by the end of next year. But importantly, with Riggy, so of course we've talked about Riggy many times, and that's absolutely crucial for us. So we're going to be applying for Riggy, we feel, by the end of November. So within the next few weeks here, we'll be making our application. We expect to have that approval in hand in Q1. So in the first quarter of 2026, we expect to have Riggy approved. And once you have Riggy approved, you have to meet minimum spending requirements. So you have, within the first 12 months from your approval date, you have to spend $40 million US. as a minimum. And then the next 12-month period, another $40 million US. So you have to spend over $80 million here in 2 years from the date of your approval. So now with the financing we've just completed, that first year period, the first $40 million US, we already have that cash in the bank. So that's huge. Whereas, sometimes if you get your permits and you get riggy and you do your feasibility, if you don't have the cash, I think that could hurt the share price because everyone knows the financing's coming. So we got out in front of that. No need for us now to do a financing even for the riggy. So we're not only financed now to complete exploration and obviously the feasibility and all of that, but now even we're looking beyond that as we get riggy. The next year, $40 million, we can do a lot of early works construction, start ordering long lead time items, expand the camp that we have at site. We can do a lot of work here to really help accelerate this project and move it forward very, very quickly. So yeah, no, I think it was great that we were able to get that financing off. Again, I think there's lots and lots of upside ahead of us here. It was minimal dilution, and now we have a very, very strong balance sheet. And yeah, now it's just a matter of executing next year, and I think that's what we're going to do.
So moving towards that construction or development decision, what's that really going to hinge on here, John? It does seem like everything's moving towards that being a pretty easy decision for you to make to move this asset forward.
Yeah, without question. Look, I think the economics are stellar for this project, even based on the pre-feas resource, which has obviously grown and then, of course, continues to grow the more we drill. But we do have a lot of upcoming, some major de-risking catalysts. So obviously, riggy is key. Getting that stability agreement in place is obviously a huge milestone for us. And again, as I mentioned, we'll be applying for that within the coming weeks, and we should have approval in Q1. Also getting our EIA permit approved. That's obviously crucial as well, and that's well underway. I mean, we're in the final stages of that approval. We expect to receive that well before the end of this year as well. So either in November, early December, we expect to receive that. That's the overarching sort of environmental permit that we need. And then the final stage is going to be just completing the feasibility study, obviously, next year. And so that remains on track as well for the first half. And once you have that, then it's, subject to raising sort of the $540 million capex. Then, once you have that project financing in place, yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. You would move this project forward as quickly as possible and really start on the full-out construction activities next year.
Well, and John, just for people that maybe missed prior episodes we've done together or are not familiar with the lay of the land in Argentina, maybe just remind them of why this RIGI law that Argentina passed is such a game changer for the company from an economic standpoint, like the huge amount of money saved and capital controls released and all kinds of things, but then also tie that into the jurisdiction of Argentina. There's been a recent election, and so Argentina's in the news all week. Maybe just tie together RIGI with Argentina as a jurisdiction.
Yeah, look, I think everyone's known the geological potential of Argentina has been immense, and people have known that for decades and decades. And it's similar, obviously, it's neighboring to Chile. Chile is the largest copper producer in the world. Obviously, major mining investments have been going on there for decades. I think over those years, though, what's really held Argentina back is just some of the market conditions that the federal government, for the most part, had put into place. And the key one, I would say, was certainly the foreign exchange restrictions. And so getting money into Argentina and building mines has always been easy. But then once you're operating, it's always been historically a bit of a challenge to get your money back out of the country. And so there's always been the regime in place where you have to repatriate your funds. So if you're selling gold and silver abroad, you're collecting US dollars, you're forced to repatriate those US dollars into pesos. And then there's different restrictions as to how much of those pesos you can then bring back outside of the country at different FX rates, and obviously using the central bank, etc. And so that's really been a major obstacle. Now that's completely changed as of last year. In July of 2024, President Milei introduced this new RIGI incentive regime. And this is across all industries. Mining, of course, is key. but it's also for oil and gas and agriculture and across the board. If you're investing over $200 million in the near term, you benefit by they'll give you a 30-year stability agreement where you not only get lower taxes, your corporate tax rate goes down to 25% instead of 35%. They're eliminating all export duties. Those have been very high historically for gold and silver. It was 8% for gold, 4.5% for silver. You get a 30-year stability agreement where those export duties go to zero. So that alone is worth hundreds of millions of dollars for a project of our size. But I'd say the most important benefit here is the elimination of the foreign exchange restrictions. And so now for a project that's eligible for RIGI, which we are, when you sell gold and silver abroad, you get US dollars, you can keep those US dollars abroad. And so you're no longer forced to repatriate those into pesos. So it's an absolute game changer for the country as a whole. And I think, yeah, you've seen the benefits of that. I think over the last 6 to 8 months in Argentina, there's been over $15 billion of new projects approved all across again, mining, oil and gas, lithium, some of the biggest names in the sector. I mean, Rio Tinto obviously received RIGI approval. McEwen has received RIGI approval on the oil and gas side. I know Shell and YPF and some of the biggest producers globally are now investing billions of dollars into Argentina because this new regime is extremely, extremely attractive. And what's important is this regime is set to expire in July of next year. So there's a kind of a limited opportunity here to really invest in Argentina rapidly, make sure you have these benefits in hand, and move a project forward in a timely fashion. And so that's why it was so important for us, again, to be able to raise that money that not only are we going to get RIGI, but now we can rapidly spend that first $40 million and make sure that we're fully funded for that. And so, look, Argentina has significantly improved. The RIGI is a game changer. Billions of dollars of new investments have come into the country. And yeah, I think very recently, the elections, certainly, I mean, President Milei did extremely well in the recent election results here. And it kind of reaffirms sort of support for his pro-market, pro-investment agenda. So yeah, we're extremely, extremely happy being in Argentina at the right place at the right time. I think now with the support Milei's party has from this recent election, going to be very, very constructive backdrop for companies like ourselves looking to invest, looking to create jobs, building world-class projects in the country. And so yeah, Argentina we expect is going to have a huge economic boom here, just continuing. And I think, yeah, it's perfect timing to be building projects like Diablillos.
Well, John, we'll wrap it up there on that note. That's a great broad comment on the jurisdiction, the investment capital pouring into the country, the advantages you have by tapping into the RIGI laws and all those benefits economically and from a capital control standpoint and just so many positives stacking up, but also all of the permitting benefits that are going to be going into place throughout the end of this year and beginning of next year, the definitive feasibility study, the resource update, all of these different catalysts. So I'm sure we'll be talking again, not to mention you still have a lot of results from the Phase 5 drill program that we haven't even talked about yet. So a lot of news on tap for AbraSilver. For those of you listening in, if you want to follow along with all this news, definitely click on the link below in the show notes. It takes you right over to the AbraSilver website, straight to their news section, where you can sign up for updates that hit your email inbox or just follow along with the news as it drops and hits the wires. John, keep us posted. We'll get you back on for an update soon. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Sounds great. Thanks very much.